Alrighty, good morning, everyone. It is 8:30 and I will bring to order our council meeting of March 14th, 2023. We have an agenda before us. Are there any additions or deletions to that agenda? Not seeing any. Someone care to make a motion? Councillor Penner.
I make the motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion to receive the agenda as presented. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. We have pre-circulated the meeting minutes of the February 28th, 2023 meeting. Are there any errors or omissions or concerns with those minutes? Deputy Reeve King.
If there are no concerns, I'd make the motion to accept the minutes of the February 28th regular council meeting as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion to receive the minutes as presented. All those in favor? And carried unanimously. Our first agenda item will be 5.1.1, that being Renewable Energy Information Package for Landowners. And I do not see Ms. Hazelton here. Oh, Mr. Gannon, you're presenting.
I am. Thank you, Reeve.
I did see you. I didn't. Okay, go ahead. Anytime you're ready.
Unfortunately, Barb wasn't able to join us today. She's out enjoying some sunshine, I hope, and enjoying some well-deserved time off.
Lucky her.
Today we want to present and come back to council with the Renewable Energy Information Package. As indicated in the package, you can see that administration has separated the leasing to a renewable energy facility information sheet along with the landowner adjacent to a renewable energy lease. This is in order to provide clarity. One document was just too much for those two topics, and the impact to those, the potential impact to those customers was significantly different, and the due course and action we felt required different due diligence on the side to be able to educate our customers on. Some of the areas that we want to clarify within this is that landowners may become liable to to undertake the end-of-life obligations, which may include the cost to remove the equipment and reclaim the site. We want to make sure that customers understand the implication and the potential responsibility. It is such a it's such a potential high risk for those customers, and we want to make sure that they understand that those are items that should be dealt with prior and understood. Also noted that this information is to the current environment today, and that due diligence is required for the future for anybody looking over this opportunity, and that we suggest them seek legal advice in order to get clarity to ensure that the new legislation or any new rules are adequately provided. At this time, I'm willing to take any questions that council may have or recommendations to the information package.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor McGee.
I just have a detailed curiosity, actually. I noticed that we never date any of these things that we do. Would that be pertinent to help people know that changes do happen, or is there a reasoning to why we don't put dates on these types of products?
Through the chair, that's a great question. A lot of our documents tend in municipal government that we date our policies, our bylaws, but our information packages seem to be one of those items that don't get dated to ensure relevance, that they're relevant to the current time, but it can also have the opposite effect, right? So if it's council's wishes, we most certainly can put a date stamp or timeline on on the document, but at the same time, we feel the document is relevant today. As soon as we print it, due to legislations and changes, it can change quite quickly.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Cunningham.
Firstly, I'd just like to thank council and administration for putting these together. I think it's very important information, so thank you for that. Just in terms of the weed control, I just wondered if it's, would be important to put anything about gophers. I know maybe that's more of a development permit, but I am hearing a lot about controlling gophers is becoming an issue on these sites. The other thing, a concern, again, whether it belongs in this document or not sure, but adjacent crop damage is another issue that can become prevalent for adjacent landowners. And also, adjacent property values can be altered, and I think that's maybe one that doesn't go in this document, but going forward, it is something that they are studying quite closely. So just a couple thoughts on that.
Deputy Reeve King.
And I guess just in response to your comments, Councillor Cunningham, I'm just curious, the crop damage that you were talking about relates to the solar development in what way? Just for my own clarity, if you don't mind.
So I just know of a project currently that had to pay crop damage because equipment had gone into a neighboring field. Okay. And so it's just something that I think, you know, maybe landowners would want to be aware of. So is that, again, that's an issue maybe a landowner wants to take up legally. Is that going to be their responsibility, or will that be really the responsibility of the company that owns a project or the construction company?
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Next, go ahead, Mr. Gannon.
Through the chair, thank you very much. We can definitely pursue and look at those couple of items that were brought forward. My understanding is that if there's any trespassing or any work that's being done on adjacent lands, those are trespassing and legal items that are involved, but we can definitely, the setbacks and those items can definitely be indicated within the document as an alignment piece for people to ensure that they understand where the project is actually starting and where the vehicles and potentially the development actually could affect their land in those areas, and they should be aware of the potential.
So what you're saying is you're going to add another section into this?
We'll try to add a separate little blurb here saying that, you know, project development can be a concern, and any item that is being dealt with should be consulted, or any damages, they should be seeking legal advice on how to manage it and how and who to be able to go towards. In my point of view right now, without looking further into it and getting legal advice, who may be responsible could vary depending on the circumstance. So I don't want the organization to get into providing legal opinion when the circumstances could vary from one landowner to the next.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Reeve King.
I was just sitting here thinking about the situation on gophers as well. Like, as far as I know, gophers are not a named pest in Alberta, and there's no legislation that mandates their control. And it's problematic between neighbors under regular farm conditions. So when you have a solar development, commercial solar development that has a gopher problem, I'm not sure there's anything that we can do legally to enforce management of that. Just, I think we'd need some pretty good clarity on that. If it was a named pest, then that would be different. They would be mandated to control them. So I'm just wondering where we would be. Like, I know we have lots of problems with gophers, say, on X farm, and they, of course, are going to trespass into the neighbor's crop, particularly if it's canola. But there's nothing that legally says this farmer has to manage them so that this farmer doesn't have a problem with them. So that would be my concern, that we might be venturing somewhere that we legally cannot go.
Councillor Cunningham.
So the gopher issue was brought to me by a ratepayer of a potential new project, and they were told by the company that that would be the responsibility of the landowners and the county. So I just wanted some clarification on our end.
They're not county gophers. They're the Queen's gophers. Well, King's gophers, sorry.
The Queen's no longer taking responsibility.
Yeah, she's abdicated her responsibility and given it to her son. Yes, go ahead.
Through Mr. Chair,
Mr. Hogan.
if I can put this out there, I think rather than go directly to gophers or anything like that, if we were to take that section with potential concerns that appears in both documents, and instead of weed control, we were just to expand that to weed and pest control, and just put wording in there, and then it covers off the whole. You know, we're broaching the issue out there that there could be pest concerns, but we're not going to the level of specificity that it's only this one thing. We can, I think to Mr. Gannon's point, whether we had a separate blurb or we just put in development concerns in that same area, that would work as well. And then we take all those concerns, and rather than try to be exhaustive and list them, we can do a general statement similar to what we've done here, so that at least it's on the radar, which I think is the aim of the document. You know, during construction, your neighbors may have development concerns regarding material, transportation, yada, yada, yada. We'll figure out better wording than yada, 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 but it'll be.
All right. Councillor Cunningham.
Just one more for me, I promise. So just in terms of the construction traffic, it states in here that the dust impact would be dealt with by the developer. So is that the owner of the project, the construction company? And is this something that we can look at in the future? Could it be changed, like perhaps through MPC development permit?
Mr. Gannon.
Through the chair, we could look at those different options. It's usually the developer, the one that is responsible for the project until it's constructed. So in essence, they're the ones that are causing the issue on the road and are getting the permits in order to move forward with the construction within the area. So that's where it's governed at this point. But we can explore if there's other opportunities to create responsibility from other proponents of those projects, but we'd have to look deeper into that.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, to pick up on that, our agreements generally are with the developer. Often the developer and the landowner are the same entity, but of course on some bigger projects like this, we know that they're not. So they can be the same entity, they can be different entities. But as Mr. Gannon said, the person making the application, or that we're approving the application for and putting the conditions on, the applicant is what we consider the developer, right, of that. So generally any conditions that we'd have on there would be the developer's responsibility to make sure they were in place. Of course, we have an enforcement component behind that, but the other, in terms of the development agreement, that's also an agreement signed with the developer.
Deputy Reeve King.
So then, my understanding would be that we could, in the permitting process or the agreement process that we develop with these energy projects, we could condition things like pest management within that development agreement, putting the responsibility, like you talked about gophers, but one thing that we could face if it stays dry would be something like grasshoppers. So grasshoppers could proliferate in a development like that and then encroach on neighboring land. So if we put that responsibility in the permit or in the development permit, whatever it happens to be, those conditions aren't just for the development period, they are longer lasting conditions, are they not? Or are they just for that specific construction period?
Go ahead, Mr. Gannon.
Through the chair, from my understanding is that it's for the specific development period for the construction portion of it. I'd also want to make clarity with regards to pests. It's one of those items that we have to have a burden of proof that the development has caused the effect that is being portrayed in order to create a correction. And when we deal with natural inhabitants like grasshoppers, gophers, if they were already present in the area, you know, the proof of burden's on our side to ensure enforcement nature can be had, that the developer has caused a effect to the increased infestation or pest issue.
Okay.
Deputy Reeve King.
So again, I'm just trying to get clarity. So when we put the responsibility on them for weed management, that's not just for the development period, that's for the entire life of that project. Am I not correct in assuming that?
Mr. Hogan.
Through Mr. Reeve, you are correct. So the development agreement, we don't, generally the wording in the development agreement is not that they have to manage the weeds, it's that they have to have a weed management plan. And so as part of the development permit conditions, they have to create another plan. That plan lasts for the longevity of the development. So there is, the development agreement does establish that longer term thing, but it does it through the creation of another document. So whether that's a weed management plan, whether that's an erosion plan, a reclamation plan, it conditions that these other things that will be long lasting be created, right? And so that's the mechanism there. To pick up on what Mr. Gannon said before, you have the ability to place conditions on developments. As Mr. Gannon said, there is a burden of proof. I suspect there would also be a reasonableness factor that, and this would be a question for legal. I can take you only so far on this one, and then I have to defer to legal. But I'll take gophers as an example. If you're going to condition that a particular development control gophers on their property, but you've not conditioned that on any other development or required any other person to do that, I would suspect that there's a winnable challenge to that condition as being unreasonable and being inconsistent with development practices. Again, I'm not going to tell you that would or would be the case. That would be a question for legal, but I believe that's probably the answer we'd receive.
Councillor Cunningham.
I lied, not last one. Okay, so, yeah, so my comment to that would be, I think what we're finding is probably the control of gophers are a little bit maybe more difficult on these type of projects, but I'm no expert on that. And I think it would kind of fall within our RMA President Paul McLaughlin talking about the good neighbor policy. I think if you were wanting to move in and do a project like this and be a good neighbor to your folks that are farming next door, I think it would be probably beneficial to them. And just one question in regards to that, are the weed management plans available to adjacent landowners agreements?
Through Mr.
Mr. Hogan.
Chair, I would need to get the answer to that from our FOIP expert, so I'd have to follow up on that.
Are there any other questions or concerns dealing with our renewable energy information package for landowners? So by the looks of things, there's just going to be a few things added, and we'll see where we go from there. Councillor McGee.
Excellent discussion, and I think it's time to, I would like to move that council approve the leasing renewable energies facility and landowners adjacent to renewable energy lease fact sheets as amended.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve with the amendments that we've discussed. Is there any discussion to that motion? Go ahead, Mr. Hogan.
Through you, Mr. Reeve, just for clarity for council, the amendments we would make would be expanding the weed control portion to be weed and pest control. And we would add an expanded section somewhere for development concerns. We've got traffic in there, but we can flesh that out or add another section, one way or the other addressing it. But those are the two amendments we would make.
I think one dealing with dust control too. Was that something that's in there, so we're good? All right. Is there any other discussion to the motion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Gannon. A little bit more work, but sure you'll get her done. Let's go on, because I'm thinking this one should be fairly quick, to 5.2.1, Ag Service Board Fieldman Appointment. Mr. Gannon.
Thank you once again, Reeve and council. At this point, we'd like to recommend that the appointment of Fallon Sherlock as the interim agriculture field person for Kneehill County. As indicated through the document, this is to ensure compliance with Alberta Agriculture Service Board Act, section B and subsections 1, 2, and 3. And the designated officer performs this vital role to the community, and due to the leave of our current field person, we require the allocation or the appointment of another. Thank you.
Any questions from council? Any motions from council? Deputy Reeve King.
So I'd make the motion then that we appoint Fallon Sherlock as the interim agricultural fieldman for Kneehill County.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to appoint Ms. Sherlock as the interim ag fieldman for Kneehill County. Is there any discussion to that motion? Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
While Ms. Sherlock is in this position, are we hoping to fill the assistant ag fieldman internally, or will we be putting it out there? New job position, new ad.
Through the chair, we're looking at different opportunities currently, and we feel that those positions need to be filled. We're just trying to find out which is the best strategy for the organization at this time. If we can't find an internal applicant, we will look exterior for a temporary appointment.
Are there any other questions from staff dealing with this appointment? Not from staff, from council. To staff. If not, what are council's wishes? Oh, motion's been made, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, time change. Every 5 minutes, blank, blank. Okay, so we have a motion before us. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you for putting up with my blankness. Okay, we have a delegation that's going to come before us at 9 a.m. I do believe they have a PowerPoint presentation that they were going to be sharing with us. So at this point in time, I will recess and give the opportunity for them to set up their PowerPoint. So we're in recess. You didn't bring a PowerPoint? Okay. All right, well then we'll start early, if that works for you guys. So if we could have the presenters move up, whoever's presenting. That would be you. All right, Rosalie. The reason we asked you to come forward is because we are recording this session. So we have to use the mics so that the voice part comes through rather than the picture part, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to sit down?
Sure, please. Sure, yep. At this point in time, what I'll do is I'll have council introduce themselves. Oh, okay, I'm coming out of recess now. Boy. I don't want daylight savings time anymore. Okay, we are out of recess. We are going to move with the delegation. I will start, would like council to introduce themselves, starting from my far right.
Laura Lee Michelle Cunningham, Division 5.
Carrie Phobes, Division 4.
Jerry Whitstock.
I'm Ken King.
Faye McGee, Division 1.
Good morning, everyone. Debbie Penner.
And joining us today is our CAO, Mr. Hogan, our Director, Kevin Gannon, and our Director Financial side is Kinza Barney. So we're all, at any time you're ready, I guess if you want to introduce yourself, Rosalie, not that we already don't know who you are,
Thank you.
and maybe some of the people that you brought with you.
Thank you, Reeve. And councillors, we're glad to be here on behalf of the Kneehill Historical Society and Kneehill Historical Museum and Visitor Information Center. I've brought with me our Vice President, Daryl Adam, Director Lynn Gustafson, Director and Co-Project Manager Darlene Somerville. These volunteers represent the 8,000 or more hours that we donate to the museum annually, done so by approximately 30 county residents. And so together we've developed a visitor information center with the museum that you can be proud of, that's recognized by Alberta Museums Association and accredited by Travel Alberta. We want you to know that we train students from our county of our place in Western Canadian history, and we equip them with public relations and museum skills such that they've gone on to other museums in the area, like Pioneer Acres and Glenbow and visitor information centers. So our task has been to give our own people the best possible experience. We're here because we want to expand our museum. The drawing that you see up there on the wall is the first sketch that was offered by the draftsman. And since that time, we've discovered that indeed the building needs to be 45 feet wide, not 30. We won't do solar heating or in-floor heating. We will build a two-story building, if it all goes as we hope, that will house both a preservation conservation workshop for our volunteers, a seminar room which will have big screen projector and chair seating. We will have extra display space both upstairs and down, and we'll be able to have visiting exhibits as well as exhibits based on the various areas that we serve, Acme, Sunny Slope, Swalwell, Carbon. We tell the big story of Kneehill County, from Wimborne to Hesketh, from Elnora area down to the southern boundary and along the Red Deer River. We have about 20,000 artifacts there, and the collection grows with good stuff from all across the county. We need space so that we can house those artifacts. We connect people continually with their county history. We know that we can apply for a $50,000, which sounds like a lot of money to me, grant, and we're hoping that indeed the county might see fit to add more money to the amount if it's available. What happened is that one of our donors, Ethel Jasmine Skokowski, gave her estate to the museum. And in doing that, we're a nonprofit and we're a charity and we can't keep the money. Half of it was invested into operational funds, but the other half was set aside for capital expenses, such as another building. So the best thing we can do as volunteers for this community is build a building that will last for another 100 years and serve this community well. We have good people involved already. We have Maxwell Construction, Mike Richards Engineering, a draftsman, Vanjie Zita Glakis. We have soil sampling done, and we have Apex relocating the gas line, and they're going to do that gratis. We have gone out and fundraised with businesses, and oil companies are next on the list to go. Elevators, the inputs people, the local individuals, and our hope is that we will build a $1.5 million building at this point. That's what we think it will be. Let me think. Are there questions that you all would like to ask of us?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Forbes.
Good morning. Thank you for coming in today. How many visitors do you receive a year?
Usually, in a good year, non-COVID, it's somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000. And they come, where do they come from? A lot of people come up on the plains from Drumheller as they're crossing to go across to Red Deer or up to Dry Island Buffalo Jump, and or from Calgary, because we're the closest restroom in the area, which is kind of funny. But we hook every visitor in and give them personalized tours. So all of those people really get individualized attention when they come. We receive about 10 school classes in June, and we'll expand that. Once we have a building that people can access all year round, we can expand the school class into September and October with our volunteers, as long as, you know, the crops aren't coming off or the things that happen that keep volunteers away. Yeah, sometimes you wonder about numbers, but those are pretty good numbers considering the area that we serve and where we're at. We have tours from the lodges have come, and like the Linden Lodge, the Chateau, the Golden Hills Lodge here, and they've been so happy with the information they've received. We have artifacts from their area, so they can touch the artifacts and get the stories. And we have a number of people who come to us for research, either family history or local history. And so we answer those queries, and things like the industry in Linden. Linden gave us all of their records, and so now we house the archives for Linden. And we have photographs, archives, history books. We have the best history book collection. I think it's even better than Alberta museums, Royal Alberta. It's good. Our stories are the big stories, the coming of the railway, the coal to coal bed methane, the wheat story, the grain story, agronomy, weather. We even tried to tame the clouds here in Kneehill County when we had hail suppression. But nobody else has hail suppression equipment. We're pretty lucky. It's extraordinary. They can't believe the little seeding, devices that were planted around on various farms and did work, brought the hail down as mush. Yeah.
Deputy Reeve King.
So I understand from the information that I've been provided that your goal is to raise about half of the 1.5 million that you're looking for and then apply for money through the Community Facility Enhancement Program.
Correct.
So currently on hand, you have how much money?
Well, we have of Ethel's money, there actually is about $500,000, of which we hope not to use all of that because operations could be needed. I mean, we can raise money, but we'd like to use 400,000 of that. We have an indication from one grain company and they asked us to go for a big grant. So we're hoping that that would be 100,000 or so. We have indication from Service Credit Union of that they would fund 10,000. From Mountain View, which is called Connect First in Linden, they're going to combine with Carbon, Hannah, and Linden. They said to give us a sizable sum. They couldn't tell us how much, but I would guess it would be like 10,000. We were received well at Reimer CBI in Linden and at Sunterra. So we're optimistic there that they will give funds. It's quite a job fundraising because it takes a little while to get those commitments. Leo Britsky gave us $5,000 and said, Rosalie, you come back for more if you need it. But so yeah.
So then, based on the information that you're providing at this point, you would have 400 for sure, and potential commitments in the range of maybe another 125 to 150.
I would think that, yes. Yeah.
But none of that potential commitment has been
Well, it
realized
hasn't,
at this point.
yeah, it's not deposited in our account yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's what I did. I went up and looked at that beautiful copper building up there by Home Hardware, and then talked to the people that did it, Remuda. And I said, how much did you build that building for? $362,000. And that didn't include the floor. So what I know is that we can put up a building if we get a CFEP grant and do more with what we've got, which is a good start.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make it as good as we can with what we've got. And we've got people that, if we had to, we can do the installation. That's one thing that allow us to do that kind of thing. So we've got people in the community that are donating time and labor. Apex would donate the change of the gas line for us. So we're working on a tight budget, but it could be an extraordinary building.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Council have any other questions for Ms. Lamley? Mr. Phobes.
So I had a ratepayer on the weekend ask me, the only way you're going to be able to expand is backwards. That's correct, right? Because you can't
The only
go-
way we're going to which?
How will you be able to expand that building? In which direction?
How are we going to be able to access the building?
No, expand?
Oh, well, we do have 45 feet that we can extend south of the main museum, 100 feet south. The space is there. Yes, and it'll still leave an aisle for, we moved the gate last year so that we have access to the back of that property from the south end across to the west side, from east to west.
Are there any other questions from council or Ms. Lamley? Councillor Cunningham.
So thank you all for coming, and thanks for the work you do. It's very appreciated in our community. I noticed you mentioned Nathan Cooper, but was there any grants available through the federal government? Did you check into?
From the federal government, well, we were trying to, when we had the idea of maybe solar, but we've ditched that one. We were going to apply for one there. There doesn't appear to be any from like Canadian Museums Association, and there's none from Alberta Museums Association. So they go for collections and operations more than capital. Finding capital funds hasn't been that easy. There may be ones I'm not aware of, and I'd be happy if you had any ideas. We'd go for it. Yeah, just not aware of any.
Deputy Reeve King.
Just as a follow-up and maybe a comment is, are you working, like there is a grant writer within our community? And is that who you're working with as far as your grant application is concerned? Have you considered that at all?
Yes, we have worked with our grant writer, who's an excellent person. I've written lots of grants, so my head is deep in the grant pile. And she has sent along any reasonable grants. We know that the RFUFA, so the Rural Foundation of UFA, their grant will be available in July or so. And we have identified that maybe the seminar theater type room would be a logical thing to ask them to fund. And so we have preliminary discussions going on, but we can't do a thing until that grant date comes open. So we've got that one on our mind. There's another one too. Yeah, Darlene, can you think of others?
We did apply to co-op.
Oh, right, Westview Co-op. We applied to that one for $25,000. And
We only actually have one of those co-ops in our county though, which is at Linden, like that type of co-op. So, you know, that can get really wobbly. Everybody feels some of those too, so I mean, that's part of it.
we're probably spending 10 hours a day on the fundraising part. Yeah. It's worthwhile. And we have to have commitment, but not exactly to have the money in the bank. CFEP asks for commitment. Yeah.
I don't know, I think from your original things that you had got from us, that this building will connect the entire museum.
Maybe if you come up to the mic, Darlene, and then this can be, it's hard to get it on tape if you're not speaking into the mic.
The museum is all planned, like through the architect and everyone, that it will join the entire thing together, which right now it's kind of been basically a building got put here, building got put there. But the main museum and this connections building, which is the one that we're going to build, will be tight together, and on the side, they will also join up to the agricultural shed, which is going to be it can be then used year-round, We can go in and out through all the agricultural equipment that's in the ag shed. We can have the main museum and then this great, big, beautiful new addition on, and they're all going to be joined together. So I think it's going to take what was kind of a, because of the way you could spend the money at the time, a mishmash of, you know, where you put a building here, you put a building there. This will make it a beautiful county museum, because it is Kneehill County Museum. And yes, like Rosalie said, the artifacts show that they're from all over the county, that we've received all of our artifacts. And I think we talked a lot about our seniors coming to visit, but, and I don't know whether you mentioned this, but if you did, I didn't hear it. The school classes are the most amazing of all. That's kind of what got me involved in it, was to see these school classes come and the joy that they get out of seeing an old telephone or a typewriter or an old fire truck or stone tools that were used in the very early days. And there is just a never-ending amount of school kids that are coming through that museum, and they are our history, and they are the ones that we need to preserve this for. So I think that's the amazing part. That's all I need to say.
You don't have to run away. Well, thank you very much for the enlightenment. Your proposed construction completion would be June of '24, I take it?
I would hope so. I mean, if we had the funding, I think we could do it. The people are in place. The trades are all local people. They're all committed to help. I think we could do that. We have been there for almost 50 years, 49 coming up. And so it would be an extraordinary thing to have for our 50th year a completed building. And that would be 2025. But I think it could be done by 2024 if we have the funds. And if we don't, we just keep working at it till we do.
Okay. Are there any other questions from council? Councillor Penner.
I don't have a question, just a comment. Our museum is as good as its volunteers, and I want to thank you all. We have a phenomenal museum, and we have a few in the county, but this one is phenomenal, the artifacts. I love to hear that you've got a vision of connecting all the buildings together. That way you don't, it's easy to maybe find some volunteers during the winter to make sure we don't miss any of those classes that come through in the summer. So by having it joined together, you're able to access it all 365 days of the year, other than a couple of holidays. But and to expose the kids to the history. It is so valuable. And I just want to say thank you to the volunteers. It is very well done, our little museum.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a further comment to that, Debbie. We've had people come from as far as Hannah with school classes in Strathmore, and the history or social studies teacher at Strathmore, she said that what we offer in terms of historical backup with our artifacts totally mirrors what grade 4 and 5 students need to have. And she wanted to bring 130 kids one September, which was beyond us. I mean, that was a lot. We like it when 30 kids come at a time in the morning and 30 in the afternoon, because what we do is we break them down into small groups, and we have at least 10 volunteers and stations throughout the museum, and no longer than 10 or 15 minutes at a station. And so the kids really get individualized, hands-on experiences with time, history, artifacts, photographs, whatever it is. And so that way I think we really capture the students. Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions from, yes, Councillor Cunningham?
I would just suggest any excess children, just send them out to Mr. Gustafson's farm and they could have fun out there. That would be my first suggestion. But just wondering too, so if you folks don't get the money that you're looking for right off the hop, like would you consider doing it in phases, or is it kind of like?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, with the money we have, I believe we can get the shell up for sure. We can get the 2 stories, we can get the cement pad down, the basic electrical and heating, in the building. And so it would be a pass-through. It just would be so much better to be able to do enough that it had a more finished appearance. That's all.
Okay, are there any other questions for the presenter from council? Councillor McGee.
I just want to reiterate what Councillor Penner said. Thank you so much. This has been an impacting place from the time I came to the area forward, and I really appreciate all the work and the lifelong dedication that some of you volunteers have had, been there for as long as I've been in this community. Thank you all for doing that, and this presentation was excellent, so
Yeah,
appreciate
we
the
have
information.
good volunteers.
Okay, are there any other questions from council? Okay, I don't see any. I'd like to thank you, Rosalie, and your group for coming in. It's great to have you come forward, present your vision, your dream. I've been through the museum. I've been invited to go through the museum a number of times, and it is quite the setup you've got there. I know this would add considerably to what you've already got there, but again, we will be dealing with this further on in our agenda. But again, thank you very much for coming in and presenting. It does give us a better idea on what you're proposing, and I would love to see this happen.
Lovely, thank you.
Hopefully it works out on your timeline.
Thank you.
So again, thank you. Does council want a recess? Or do you want to go on? Nope, we're good, we're good. Okay. All righty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item would be 5.3.1, the annual appointment of fire guardians, and I take it, Mr. Gannon?
Thank you very much. Once again, I'm able to present another potential appointment. This one is one for the fire guardian. Once again, there are provincial requirements through several acts that require a designate person in order to be able to issue fire permits. And this year, our recommendation are to appoint from Three Hills Fire Department, Ken Cinnamon, Murray Fenton, Brandon Rempel, Acme, Brian Fragley, Bert Jackson, and John Tersteeg. And further on with Carbon, Linden, Torrington, and Trochu in Kneehill County, shows the other members that were recommended to provide those services. And I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gannon. We do this yearly, so it's not like it's new for us, but are there any questions from council to Mr. Gannon? And if not, what are council's wishes? Oh, sorry, Councillor Forbes.
I will make the motion to appoint the following as fire guardians for the insurance of fire permits to March 31st, 2024 as listed.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion before us to approve the fire guardians as presented on screen. Is there any discussion to that motion? I see none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Okay, and our next agenda item will be 5.4.1, Energy Audit Program Review. Mr. Furr. Thank you for coming, and anytime you are ready. How can you miss it? It's four dots.
So last year, we presented our energy audit findings and identified a number of projects. We asked to investigate further into the need for building management systems, or BMS. We'll be presenting some of the basic information on these projects today, as well as some further information on other projects that were identified through this effort that had potential. We'll also spend a minute on lessons learned from the energy audit, need for continued assessment, and a little review of our solar installation here on this building. So over the last few years, consumers throughout Alberta have been experiencing utility cost increases. In 2020 and 2021, we entered a partnership with Alberta Municipalities, or AM, and completed an energy management preliminary audit on 5 of our buildings. They included administration, the maintenance shop, Trochu Fire Hall, Family Community Support Services, and the Ron Gore Memorial Arena. Through participation, we learned in greater detail how energy is billed, how to track and trend consumption, and how to make sense of our energy usage. We chose these buildings because they're historically larger consumers of energy compared to our other facilities. During the project, we found several practical operational practices that could be changed in order to save energy, and are continuing to explore operational changes that may provide further energy savings as well. So we deemed this endeavor a success. Upon completion of the audit, we received a vast amount of information and identified several projects for future consideration. We continue to explore the implementation of physical and behavioral changes to maximize efficiencies within our facilities. Practical application of energy efficient modeling provides us target energy cost indexes, or ECIs, for new construction and renovation, aligning with industry standards while employing trending practices of energy consumption through our future asset management program. So the initiative supports 4 of Council's strategic goals, providing high-quality infrastructure, economic resilience, quality of life, and effective leadership. So building management systems. With the different types of energy reduction projects identified, the ones that potentially provided the best opportunity for reduction were building management systems, or BMS for short. BMS would control equipment such as boilers, rooftop units, domestic hot water heaters, compressors, and the like. Energy and maintenance savings could be had by cycling equipment, turning it on and off versus continuous use, or reducing set points and temperature demands in off hour, similar to a programmable thermostat in your house. We feel this technology may provide the ability to reduce the wear and tear of the related equipment through effective equipment operational modeling and programming, therefore increasing the life cycle of the equipment which the BMS system controls. Another desirable function is the ability to dial into a BMS system remotely when alarms are received indicating unfavorable conditions or failures. This could increase our facilities team's response time and quickly schedule a response with the appropriate resources required. Now, these control systems can vary in cost dramatically depending on the make and manufacturer, building type, size, and use, current equipment that's employed within the building, and so on. The acronym ECI and EUI are commonly used. They're measurements of a building's efficiency of operation. They stand for Energy Cost Index and Energy Use Index. For example, the Energy Cost Index for the maintenance building was $1.54 a square foot. The textbook ECI for this type of building at this age is about $1 a square foot. To calculate the ECI, we take the utility expenditures in dollars and divide by gross conditioned area in square feet. So we feel this technology warrants further investigation after receiving the ECI data above, but we feel other items should also be considered in its evaluation. We also need to take into account consideration the life cycle and condition of any facility looking to move towards this technology and the current condition of its equipment, such as boilers, rooftop units, domestic hot water heaters, and so on. Potential upgrades of equipment and the addition of new equipment may have to be considered in order to work effectively with a BMS, which may deem the opportunity less desirable. We also need to take into consideration that most BMS are proprietary in nature, which requires a specific type of skill set and support to ensure it can function effectively. Increased costs could be incurred to establish maintenance contracts that will ensure general maintenance to the system is performed. Appropriate software updates are managed, as well as any sensor or equipment communication support requirements could be addressed promptly and accurately as well. Our team, through the development of our asset management program, will result in a long-term strategic approach in order to support the implementation of potential energy-efficient technologies such as BMS. And we will also continue to explore opportunities to employ energy-efficient technologies similar to photovoltaic cells. However, at this time, with the current technology, we don't feel there is a practical application within our facilities that would produce a significant benefit from these installations. So here's a quick overview of our solar installation on this building. You guys have seen a graph similar to this before. This is our monthly solar energy production in 2022. It's displayed in megawatt hours. You'll see some of the lower energy production due to less hours of light in the winter months. The lifetime energy produced by this installation is currently at 143 megawatt hours. And at 6 cents, we have recuperated $8,580 to this point, and we hope to get 25 years out of the system. So with that energy produced, we've saved 56,000 kilograms of CO2 emission, and it'd be the equivalent of planting about 1,700 trees. So with the Kneehill implementation contribution of just over $19,000 through the life of the system, we're at the pretty much at the break-even point. While it does not meet the targets sold to us by the installer, it is still a net benefit for the county. And a few of the lessons learned on this installation that could be applied to others are the pitch of the panels that aren't allowing for a snow shed, as you might have noticed when you drove in this morning. We could have better production in the winter months where they mounted at the optimal pitch, but they were mounted the way they were because of how the building was engineered and the code requirements at the time. But when we crunched the numbers, we figure we could have increased production by 25% over the winter months with the proper pitch. And these systems, proper care and maintenance of the panels and inverters makes a huge difference in energy production. Keeping them clean and functioning properly also comes with an expense as well. And there were many other smaller energy reduction projects that were proposed. The majority of them were previously identified by facilities, and the more cost-effective ones are in our 5-year plan. The main ones include lighting retrofits at our maintenance shop, wake shop, and salt storage buildings here in the Three Hills Maintenance Yard. We approach these initiatives in conjunction with our operations as well. An example of this is the lighting retrofit here in this administration building. We found it much more cost-effective to replace fluorescent fixtures with LEDs at the end of their service life as they burn out, as opposed to replacing them all at once, regardless of their condition. Other projects such as EV chargers and solar carports were also both proposed, but again, we require further data and cost-benefit analysis before we can recommend them. But as technology changes, we will continue to explore these opportunities that could benefit the organization through energy-saving initiatives. And that's what I have for you guys today.
Thank you, Mr. Frere. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Folks.
So has any of the 28 considerations been completed since 2021?
Yes, there have. Most of them were, most of the completions are small projects that we were able to complete in our operational budget, like installing misers on large equipment, which is just an automated switch that cycles the equipment to save energy. And then some of the behavioral things that were identified was just like how we use our buildings, right? So, you know, you have a 22-foot overhead door and a building that's 22 degrees Celsius, and you open that guy all the way up on a minus 30 day. You know, there's a lot of behavioral changes that we've implemented in training our staff. And then, the lighting retrofits. This building is about 60% complete. And the other initiatives also tie back into our Ron Gore Memorial Arena projects, with the lighting fit done there and the ice plant too. That was prior to this, but that falls into the same. So yeah, the county has been looking at these initiatives ever since I've been here, so.
Mr. Gannon.
Thank you. Through the chair, I also want to point out that a lot of these recommendations were done solely on energy calculations from data received from bills. So it doesn't really take in consideration current conditions and lifestyles of facilities and life cycling and asset management principles. So we need to ensure that we have a long-term strategic approach when we're moving forward with implementation. So there are some items that we do see as potential. But if I was to use Mr. Furr's terminology, they're low-lying fruit, and at this point, we need to explore the larger projects to ensure that incorporating them, we're not going to put initiatives to a facility that just cannot have the proper savings that we're looking for from implementing some of these larger systems.
Councillor Cunningham.
So thanks so much for this information. I know we spoke of this about a year ago, so I was interested to find out about the solar on the building. And so I can go back and look at the chart. I don't think Councillor Forbes and I actually have ever seen that chart, so take some time to look at that. Maybe this will answer my question on the chart. But do we know the maximum capacity of the panels, and do we know what the total net generation is to date?
Without the numbers in front of me, the total capacity of the system is 31 megawatt hour in production.
So do we know how often we've met that capacity?
Yeah, that would be the way that the energy is produced and metered, like when we're looking at the graph of energy production. In the summer months, we are very, very close to full production. And in the winter months, that drops dramatically.
Mr. Gannon?
Through the chair, I also would like to point out that even though we're learning a lot from the solar application within our facility, the project we believe was around $125,000 for the project, which I believe 19,000 of it was our contribution. The rest was through a grant. So the production that we're actually receiving will cover the cost of, we believe will cover the cost of our contribution for the life term, but it will not cover the $125,000 investment fully for this project at this time. There are environmental benefits for this technology that unfortunately do not have a cost savings mechanism to them. But as Mr. Furr pointed out, it's equivalency in the amount of trees it takes in order to remove those type of emissions. That's the type of information we can provide forward. So I wanted to make sure it was clear that the life cycling of that equipment is not full cost recovery.
I remember when the solar panels were considered to being put on top of our administration building. At that point in time, well, it would have been 2016, I do believe, we were not allowed to generate more electricity than what we consumed. So the option of going to a bigger panel system was not there. So we did the panels as to what we were maximum consumption times. We were limited. Councillor Cunningham.
I just always, actually this comes from my husband, but we always talk about grants. I always have to be reminded that it's still taxpayers' money. It's not free money, but anyhow. So you spoke about exploring some of these projects further. This current project, was that partially funded through Alberta municipalities? And if so, with the future planning or exploring that we have on this, is there funding still available, or does that come through the county? Does that make sense?
Kevin can probably speak further to this, but the funding or the partnership was between Kneehill County and AM, along with a few other regional partners as well.
And through the chair, future review and research will be done internally through our asset management, condition assessments, and master plans for our 33 some facilities.
Mr. Hogan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to build on that. So this emerged actually as a Kneehill Regional Partnership project that was taken on. So that was the other regional municipalities that Mr. Fair referenced. That initial component, I'd have to go back and double check the numbers, but I don't believe there was a cost there to us other than staff time. Obviously we had to put that in. From there, that list of recommendations, the municipalities had the option, and this is where they kind of separated into their own ways because the recommendations for each municipality are different. We originally were looking at that project as a way of Alberta municipalities was using it as a pilot of sorts to see if there was a potential to amalgamate a number of smaller initiatives to make a project that would be large enough for somebody to bid on. Or to get more competitive bids would be probably a better way to do that. That never really came to fruition, that component of it, but it was an attempt there. So if you're going to, if you're the city of Edmonton and you're putting out a contract to do X millions of dollars in solar panels, you're going to get a lot of people bidding on that. If you're the village of Acme or Kneehill County and you want to do what we have on the roof, you don't get quite the action on that bid that you do. So what Alberta municipalities was looking at doing was saying, hey, rather than a bunch of people, if they do this alone, can they get together and make a project that's big enough to get, let's say, on the radar, so to speak, then they can do that, then we can try that. Like I said, they got some good lessons learned out of that, I believe, but the overall amalgamated regional project never went forward. And so what each individual partner decided to do is they said, hey, the original partnership exploration where we all did this together was really beneficial. And I think that's some of the data that Mr. Ferris presented today. But at this point, it's up to each municipality to progress on what they want on the frame, on how they want to progress it. So Mr. Gannon's spoken to that, Mr. Fair as well, around when we do some of our internal assessments. You know, we made the decision, we didn't feel we needed a partnership with an engineering company to change light bulbs. We felt we could do that ourselves. So that's what Mr. Fair has been doing. The you know, the next stages of the project, had we gone that route, would have required cash outlays. And we as admin, but you guys as council, decided that, you know what, we can do this as we go. And the next step in that, from that past council conversation, is what Mr. Gannon's referring to. As we tie this into asset management, then the ability to make better decisions emerges. We're already cognizant that we don't want to go and, you know, we don't want to go and put 25-year solar panels on a building that we think has 10 years of life left, right? That's not, so we get into some of those discussions, and that's where we look at some of those steps that our facilities department has already taken and will continue to take. So I think our message was there was a lot of good learnings out of this, a lot of little things, little and big things that we can change and have changed. Jason's been plugging away at those, but you know, where we go forward is we'll tie that into the asset management component. Facilities will continue to do the good job that they're doing, and we'll bring back to you as recommendations emerge that make sense, right? Like Jason said, we haven't investigated, or we shouldn't say we haven't investigated. We've not brought back to you the idea of like a solar, like a car charging port. You know, as we continue to watch our fleet as an example, do we have vehicles that down the road could be electric? Maybe. Today we don't, but it's, again, we continue to watch those things to see maybe when they make sense, and if, when do they, right?
Deputy Reeve King.
I know, Jason, you mentioned it as you were going through. You talked about the 143 kilowatt hours, and you gave a dollar number. Could you just repeat that for me? I was busy writing the 143 and the dollar went right by me. So if you wouldn't mind, just for my own information.
Through the chair, I closed it in front of myself as well. But yeah, the total since 2016, the total energy produced is 143 megawatt hours. And when we calculated the $8,000 that we've recuperated off that, we took it at kind of a industry standard of 6 cents a kilowatt hour.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council to Mr. Frere? Well, it was a thorough report. Good thing we're not hiring people to come in and change light bulbs. Appreciate that. Is someone prepared to make a motion? Yes, Councillor Cunningham.
I'll move that council accept the energy audit program review as information.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion to accept the report as information. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Do we want to do a break? Please. Okay, this time I'll call a recess and I won't change my mind. We have a delegation coming before us at 10, so All righty, it is 10 o'clock, and we do have a delegation before us. Kneehill FCSS. I'd like to welcome Shelley and Michaela. Michaela is, well, I guess you're not new to the organization. You've been here 9, 10 months?
Just a week shy of a year.
Okay, boy, time flies when you're having a good time.
Absolutely.
But as we've probably not met you officially, I will let council introduce themselves. Starting from my far right.
Good morning, Laura Lee Michelle Cunningham, Division 5.
Carrie Phobes, Division 4.
Good morning, Jerry Whitstock.
Good morning, Ken King.
Excited to meet you, Michaela. Faye McGee.
Good morning, Debbie Penna, Division 2. I'm in the Swallow area.
And we also have staff here which you probably have met. Kinza Barney, you've met? No? Okay, you have now. Kevin Gannon, Director, and Mike Hogan, CAO. And of course, Carolyn, who does all the hard stuff. Okay, I will let Michaela do your presentation first, because sometimes I'll talk to that later. Anyway, Michaela, by all means,
Okay.
you can start.
Could I just kind of give a smidgen of history before she?
Okay, don't cut into her time too much, though.
That's like asking the impossible.
Sorry, I didn't mean that out loud, Shelley.
I just wasn't sure if all of the elected officials were here when we had some changes in Kneehill Regional FCSS, where the FCSS board lost just under $500,000 in contracts. They were not part of our partnership with the province, so they were separate through Children's Services. And really, all that funding was really focused on children, youth, and families. So the Kneehill Regional FCSS board in the fall of 2020, they just had 2 family wellness workers who were working in the school system. And through that school year, really seen some challenges. Not only is it because there was from 3 staff down to 2, but certainly because of the pandemic and so many changes for our children, youth, and families. So the board actually decided to take some of the money of their reserves and try and hire a part-time position, which would assist with the supporting children, youth, and families with social emotional issues. And then and they wanted to spread it out over a 3-year period, hoping things that maybe would level out a bit after that. And then the board approached all 6 municipalities as well as Golden Hill School Division, and to see if they would help bring that program to a full-time position. So I just wanted to mention that, and the Kneehill Community Support Coach was born, and we are very fortunate to welcome Michaela here a year ago, and she's doing a fabulous job. Now she's going to tell you all about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. That was an awesome introduction, and go ahead, Michaela, whenever you're ready.
All right. Yes, thank you, Shelley, for that introduction. It was very, very well. Okay, so my name is Michaela. I am the Kneehill Community Support Coach. I have been doing it for a year now, and I'm very honored to be doing it. It has been a lot of fun getting to know the kids and the teens and the parents in the community. So I have been working because part of my position is to facilitate children and youth groups really that are evidence-based programs. So basically what that means is that there's this program that has been researched and has been proven to be beneficial to kids and teens based on like a set of curriculum and ideas and activities and games and stuff. So for the first year, I've basically been focusing on these evidence-based programs. So for elementary school kids, so grades 1 through 6, I have been focusing on Magnificent Marvelous Me, which is an Art for Heart program. So that's where they get to do art and communicate their feelings and their thoughts and self-expression, which is really great. I did Kindness Captains, which was based on Merrill's Strong Kids, and that was a lot of talking about feelings and other such activities. And then doing random acts of kindness. So right now I have groups called Kindness Captains, and it's about them being leaders in their community to bring kindness to their community. So yeah, it's great. And then for junior and senior high, we did more Art with Heart programs just to try and extend that to the junior and the senior high, and it's called Ink About It and Chill and Spill. And then we also have a leadership group based on the same random acts of kindness, obviously for the junior and senior high. So all of these programs target a variety of social and emotional skills that everybody needs, kids, youth, everybody, right? This is just part of life, and this is what we need in order to be successful. And so it really targets like self-awareness and exploring personal identity, which is really important, and like self-regulation, because kids were having a really hard time with things. And so how do you manage your emotions? How do you like self-regulate? How do you express yourself? How do you problem solve? How do you set goals for yourself? How do you work as part of a team? How do you establish relationships with each other? And how do you communicate with each other in a kind way? So these are just some general outcomes that I have recorded, and all of this data is as of March 2nd, so like a week or two ago. So in total, because please keep in mind that this is a new position, doing new programs, so the beginning was very much like planning heavy, because they had to do the research, had to do the planning, had to do the prep, how do you like build the registration forms and all that stuff. So everything was built from the ground up. So just keep that in mind. So there have been a total of 707.75 planning hours. And there has been 400 hours of facilitating programs. So this does not include my last week of programs that I just did, just because of the date. I have done 136 sessions within that 400 hours. I've been part of 40 program meetings of like, how do we work out the nitty-gritty details, what's going, what's not, what's happening, and who's attending, and all these things. So, and we spent $3,596.17 and have driven over 4,000 kilometers, just because all of these communities are very rural, because I'm really doing my best to strive towards having equal representation in all of the major municipalities, including Three Hills, Trochu, Linden, Carbon, and Acme. And because it's Alberta, they're all far away, so I have to drive, which is fine. So this is the number of communities that have been in those municipalities. So your bars in red are the ones that have been offered, and then the ones in orange are the ones that have been facilitated. Obviously, there's population differentials in each community. Some are bigger, some are smaller. And so we're making sure that we're offering it in everyone. Not necessarily do they all run, because there's just not the kids that are signing up for it, but we are doing our best. And I'm happy to say that in the spring, we are going to be doing some programming in Three Hills and Acme and Carbon, which is great, because Carbon's one that we are working on, and we just did an Art Friday there as well. So over the year, I have had a total of 198 unique participants attending all of these programs. So yeah, so 104 are participating from the town schools that don't have any affiliation with the family wellness workers. The family wellness workers, their connections, I have facilitated 61 kids to try and help with their caseload and their kids, and then I also have 33 that have been homeschooled, so we're also hitting the homeschool population as well, which is really great. And there are 43 children and youth that have participated in multiple programs within that number. So there was a total of 791 participation, and that's how it kind of evens out or is spread out across the municipalities based on the programs provided. And I think it's also reflective of like the number of population per town as well. So this is the percentage of attendance. So across the 136 sessions, these are the percentages of how many kids and teens attended. So the more that my position is more well-known, the higher the percentages are, but it's also, the higher percentages are also for elementary school kids, I've noticed. But this winter has been very high percentage of attendance, which is really great. So yeah, continuing to build. So these are some outcomes from some survey responses that I've asked across my programs. And so 67% stated that because of the programs, they feel that they are better at naming their feelings, which is really important. 86% stated that because of their program, they are better at managing their stress, which is also very important. 78% stated that the program has helped them, that it is okay to be themselves, which is a very important thing, because sometimes we all kind of struggle with, who do we fit in? What's normal? And it's like, no, it's okay to be yourself, and that's okay, because you are amazing the way you are. And then 81% stated that the program has helped them feel good about themselves more often. I've also been asking parents some questions as well, and kind of what their feedback is. And so 97% stated that the programs have been helpful to help their child feel good about themselves. And 97% stated that they would be interested in similar programming in the future. So over the year, I have observed some trends. So both children and youth, I have found that they are more receptive to embedded social and emotional teachings, which basically, the analogy that I use is it's the spinach and the cookie kind of deal, because they don't just want to sit there and eat a spinach salad, but they'll do it if you smush it into a cookie and kind of do it through fun games and activities. And they're like, oh, okay, well, this is how we problem solve. This is how we deal with our emotions. Oh man, the talent show didn't go. You know, I'm really disappointed about that. How do we discuss that? But all of that is through embedded teachings. I find that they're most receptive to, as well as having opportunities to express themselves and kind of have the freedom of choice and have the freedom to create the art that they want to within like here's the idea for the art, and you kind of run with it and you express yourself the way that you want to. There's been a higher percentage of registration and attendance by elementary aged students compared to the youth, which I mentioned before. That small group sizes have supported really trusting interpersonal connections and peer support among participants, which is really a fancy wording for that they're really getting to know each other and build those strong connections, even right off the first couple sessions. So I had this one icebreaker, and it was just meant to be a casual icebreaker. I'll just disclose that right now. But the icebreaker was, would you rather have the superpower to fly or be invisible? And I had multiple kids in multiple groups say, well, I already feel invisible, so I'd rather fly. So, and it was just meant to be a casual thing, and it got really deep really fast, which is good. But the thing is that because they've built these trusting relationships, they're able to have those vulnerable conversations with each other, which is amazing. Yeah, and I've even had, so with a couple times, there's been this one kiddo, and she was homeschooled, participating with a school, like a town-schooled kid, and she comes up to her and she's like, so we've really gotten to kind of get to know each other. Do you want to be my friend and hang out after this? And it was really a beautiful moment to see, so. Participants have stated that they very much appreciate the opportunity to participate in a group that's outside of school and outside of church and outside of sports, just to give a variety of programming. And like I said before, we're able to hit a number of demographics, including town school children and homeschool children. Yeah. So here are some quotes that I just have from participants and parents. So a lot of them said that they liked that they could freely express themselves, that it's good to be different, that it's okay to be yourself, that it's okay to tell people how you feel, and it's okay to not be okay. One said that I hope I can come back soon. This group has really helped heal my heart and feel accepted. And then for parents, I just have a couple extra because I couldn't fit all on the slide, that, you know, my daughter loved feeling included in a safe environment. She told me that she felt like an equal instead of the usual feelings of not being good enough or perfect enough that she most often feels. This was a wonderful opportunity for her. Thanks again. You know, there's one that said, my child really didn't like the first few sessions that was focused explicitly on feelings and talking about feelings. You know, she wanted to drop out because she didn't like talking about feelings, but she said she liked the activities where it was more embedded and the focus wasn't on feelings. So that was good feedback, and it supports what I already had mentioned. Another one said, my child raved about how much fun she had and that she was able to learn more skills and courage for herself along the way. So yeah, it's just been a really wonderful experience. So thank you all for creating this position and all of your support along the way. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Well, thank you very much, Michaela, for the important work that you do for our community and for our school-age kids that your programs touch. We look forward to your work helping our up-and-coming generation. Sounds like you've made quite a difference already.
Well, thank you.
Are there any? Deputy Reeve King.
I don't have so much questions as comments, and you know I'm a big supporter of what you're doing, and so thank you for being here today, and thank you for sharing what's happening in what you're doing. And I know from my own grandchildren who attend school in Trochu that you're having an impact, and so that's very, very much appreciated. So thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor McGee.
I also want to thank you for being here. I think we are in a stage in our society where these interpersonal skills and self-awareness is critical. Our emotional intelligence has, I think, taken a hit over the last couple of years. And so even just the role models of adults aren't always as equipped as our kids need. And so to have this is just so critical. And this great report helps me advocate for that. And personally, I would like to see it done throughout the province, and you guys become the role model of what good community work does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham.
So I just want to thank you both for coming in, and you can tell by your voice the passion that you have for this, so thank you so much for that. And I love that you're building resilience. It's one of my favorite human abilities, and I think in the last 2 years, all of us have, it's been shown how much we need that. So thanks for doing that for the kids, that they take that home and that can be passed on too. So yeah, thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, well, good morning, Shelley. And thanks for